I'm sure you've heard that MrBeast, the most subscribed to YouTuber there is getting dragged through the mud at the moment by his neurodivergent ankles. This all started because a good pal of his, Tyson, big old hair on the chest, Christopher, hey, a true bloke's bloke, a real old-fashioned cat-calling, van-driving, reform voting, Lambert and Butler smoking, pie and mash eating, Stella drinking, wife beating, long slong owning, Jeremy Clarkson biography reading, Tommy Robinson protesting. Man! A few years ago, Kris made the very brave decision to put in a few of his wife's hair extensions. He slipped into a lovely floral summer dress and pranced around the kitchen in a pair of size 3 stilettos. He then subsequently decided he was born in the wrong body and he's actually a bird. A couple of years later, by a stroke of marvellous coincidence, it turns out that Kris, who now goes by the full alias of Ava Kris Tyson, as if he's a bird of prey, has a history of very inappropriate conversations with very young people. Now that has surprised me. If you're new to this channel, I enjoy making jokes. I don't usually mean a lot of what I say, I just like making people laugh. I've got a pretty sick sense of humour as well, because I was dragged up in a council house. Therefore, I can laugh at almost anything, because thankfully, I never had the luxury of being a walking victim. With that said, this channel isn't all about laughing, because if that's all I did, I'd probably get sectioned and thrown into a psych ward. No, you see, on top of having a very devious sense of humour, Mr. Banter has also been around the block a little bit in his short 25 years on this earth. In fact, it may surprise some of you to learn that I actually used to speak to MrBeast on occasion and can give you a real unheard of story from a first-hand perspective. Part of the reason MrBeast is so successful is because a man is obsessed with YouTube. And I think as some people have started to gather to a pretty strange extent. A good few years back, when MrBeast's subscriber count was still in the early millions, he used to come into my Discord server. Yes, I sometimes use Discord. No, I don't smell like 5-year-old cheese. Or have a fucking e-girlfriend that I call my kitten. Used to though. Anyway, MrBeast used to join voice channels with me and my friends, and the first thing he'd do before he let my friends speak to him was check their subscriber counts. Some of them didn't even have YouTube channels, but because MrBeast is a very odd character, he didn't really care about that. It seemed like he'd just only speak to YouTubers, and only YouTubers who had a certain number of subscribers. I'm well aware that this probably sounds like something I pulled out of the crevices of my arsehole because of how absurd it is. But I promise you, MrBeast, on top of being a generally rude prick back in the day, would only speak to people if they were worthy enough of his attention by way of audience numbers. And if you told him you had like 10k subs, he'd go, oh, I don't want to speak to you. And he'd ignore you. I feel as though if I was a viewer watching this right now, I'd find what I just said pretty hard to believe, and I get that. But I'm telling you now, any YouTubers who are watching who know him are pissing their sides listening to this. Because everyone in the YouTube scene knows what he's like. If you're wondering why you've never heard this before, you've never heard anyone say this out loud, a lot of YouTubers make a lot of money. And when you make a lot of money, money becomes addictive. And one thing that isn't good for making a lot of money is being on the bad side of the most subscribed to person on the platform. I'm in a council house kitchen, so I don't give a shit. But you're not going to hear Bazinga from the side, mate. Take the Victoria sponge cake out of his mouth and tell you all about how MrBeast is odd. Do you know what I mean? It just isn't going to benefit him. Now, obviously, this video isn't exactly groundbreaking. It's not like I'm telling you that MrBeast molested my virgin arsehole with his dirty, grabby, southern country music hands. Do you know what I mean? Hey, let's have a look at your ass, Brad. It was nothing like that. Although if you did do that, best believe I'd find a way to profit from it. But alas, it's nothing too serious. It just maybe gives you a little bit more of an insight into this man's off-screen character. Yes, he does provide water to the wells of African voodoo villages. And I commend him for it, but at the same time, that does not take away from the fact that he can sometimes be a dickhead. Ava Kris Tyson, on the other hand, now that is a woman, by the way, who I don't doubt has stuck her hands in a few virgin poo shafts in her time. Now, just because big groundworking 24 crates of John Smith's lager in the shed Kris has a big bulbous Adam's apple and a love for little boys, does not mean that we're going to misgender him. I mean her. Sorry, honest mistake. Yes, he might call little boys daddy in his Discord server. Yes, he might share porn with 13-year-olds. And yes, he might find out a girl is 14 and say, damn, as if he's disappointed. But none of that changes the fact that he is a strong, independent woman with a strong, girthy cock. So all of you bigots who think that this is your opportunity to be transphobic, let me just tell you from the bottom of my heart, it isn't. Trans people are just like you and I, if we were a little less normal. Since Kris has been exposed for what he used to say to kids in Discord, he's come out and said that these conversations were just a part of his edgy humour. He's also laid his ballsack flat on the table and boldly stated that anyone who tries to compare him making jokes with him grooming anyone is disgusting. I would like to humbly challenge the fella on this one and just say that from a person who has always publicly championed the freedom we should all have to make jokes, you're making these jokes at children, mate. They still might be jokes, but because they are sexual in nature and directed towards children, them being jokes doesn't take away from the fact that you're being a nonce. Shell! Oven! Sorry. Potatoes are ready. The full statement from Kris reads as follows. I would like to apologise for any of my past behaviour or comments if it hurt or offended anyone. Oh, Kris, we're not offended, pal. We're just disgusted. You call kids dad? You dirty dress-wearing weirdo. It was not my intent. Seeing recent events, we've mutually decided it's best I permanently step away from all things MrBeast and social media to focus on my family and mental health. Hold on a minute. You're telling me that a man who had a wife and a child and then proceeded to go and chop his Johnson off suffers with mental health issues? Fuck off! I want to add, I never groomed anyone. The person who gets brought up in these accusations has vocally supported that they are false. So you're telling me that the young, idolising victim of your actions doesn't realise that they're a victim of their idol's actions? What a shock! Well, that must mean you're innocent. Except, oh no, it doesn't, big lad. Big old fucking man-spreading, ballsack-owning female. Because there are literal messages of you calling kids daddy. Having said that, I humbly apologise to anyone I have hurt with my unacceptable social media posts, past actions, and to those who may feel betrayed by how I used to act online. I think as a bloke, I feel a bit more betrayed by how you act nowadays, my son. I can't lie to you. Ava Kris Tyson strikes a blow to the trans community with the end of her statement. It reads, in past years, I have learned that my old humour is not acceptable. I cannot change who I was, but I can continue to work on myself. I think he's hit the nail on the head when he says he can't change who he was. Just has me wondering why he's still got the wig on. In recent days, it's been discovered that MrBeast was also in his nonce pal's Discord server, where MrBeast himself could see what his friend and employee was saying to these kids. On top of that, it's been found that on one occasion, MrBeast chimed in on a conversation about penis size in a Discord server where children were present and stated that Chris's dick was huge. Big dick Kris, who calls himself a woman. My closing statement on all of this is that Big Dick Kris and Mr. Talk About Cocks in Front of Kids Jimmy have proven that YouTubers are generally quite weird. But I feel as if you didn't already realise that about YouTubers, then your brain is more than likely not a brain at all, but it is instead a fully intact roast potato from Toby Carvery. I'm ashamed to call myself a YouTuber these days. It's just... it's not a good label, is it really? It just isn't. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon.